Good afternoon. I'm Jim McCleary. I'm the administrator of the Law Enforcement Officers Hall of Fame, and I'd like to welcome you here for our induction ceremony for meritorious service. We're going to hear stories about law enforcement officers that are legends in South Carolina and get to meet some of them, so it's going to be a really good day. Before I get started, let's get Reverend Dr. Eric Skidmore to come up and do our invocation.
Let us pray. Gracious God, it was the prophet Isaiah who asked these questions. He said, "Have you not known? Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God. He's the creator of the ends of the earth. He doesn't faint or grow weary. His understanding is unsearchable. He gives power to the faint and strengthens the powerless. Even youth will faint and be weary. Young fall exhausted, but those who wait for the Lord, they will renew their strength. They will mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint." Father, on this day we gather to celebrate the 2025 inductees for meritorious service. As we call their names and we remember that throughout their careers, through all the years of service, they did run. They did not become weary nor faint. They sensed their calling into law enforcement was indeed to join your cause of justice wherever you might place them. We give you thanks for their service. We give thanks for those family members and co-workers, loved ones who supported them down through the years. Father, continue to bless us with officers such as these as we seek to honor you in all that we do. Hear this prayer, we pray in thy name. Amen.
Thank you, Eric. The Law Enforcement Officers Hall of Fame is a division of the Department of Public Safety. It was established in 1974 to honor officers who've lost their lives in the line of duty and to recognize officers who through their careers have made a dramatic impact to their communities and to the law enforcement profession in South Carolina. Now I'd like to introduce the chairman of the Law Enforcement Officers Hall of Fame Advisory Committee, South Carolina Department of Public Safety Director, Robert Woods.
Thank you, Jim. Good afternoon. I'm Rob Woods. I'm the director of the South Carolina Department of Public Safety. It is my pleasure to welcome you as we induct 7 officers into the Law Enforcement Officers Hall of Fame for meritorious service. Before we continue with honoring these fine officers, I want to first recognize a few people who made this special day possible. I have the privilege of serving as chair of the Hall of Fame's Advisory Committee and would like to recognize and welcome any other committee members in attendance. Would you please stand? Thank you. I would also like to express my deepest thanks on behalf of the Department of Public Safety to Director Jackie Swindler and the South Carolina Criminal Justice Academy for hosting us today as you have in recent years. Let's give him and his staff a round of applause. Finally, I want to extend my heartfelt thanks and welcome to our honorees, as well as any family or friends who are joining us on behalf of them today. The 7 public servants we have the honor of recognizing today represent a cross-section of state and local law enforcement who have each distinguished themselves through their service to our state. Today's honorees have more than 275 combined years of service to South Carolina. Since we began this ceremony in 2018, and with today's honorees, we will have inducted 63 deserving officers into the Hall of Fame for their leadership and excellence in service to our state. The bar for this distinction is not a low one. To receive this honor, nominees must have, among other things, a minimum of 25 years of law enforcement service and a proven record of excellence in the field of law enforcement in South Carolina. As you listen to the accomplishments of each of these exemplary law enforcement professionals, I have no doubt it will be clear they not only have met but exceeded these standards. Because of the tireless work of these inductees, their sacrifices at home, their dedication to serving others, and the support of their families, our communities are safer, our state is safer, and our law enforcement community is stronger. And today, these 7 officers will be permanently recognized in the Law Enforcement Hall of Fame, where we will continue to add names and hold this ceremony each year to ensure that these outstanding public servants and their meritorious service are properly honored. Before I welcome the representatives from the nominating departments and organizations to come up and introduce their honorees, I want to commend our Hall of Fame Administrator, Jim McCleary. His vast knowledge of law enforcement history is impressive, and the level of passion and care he puts into preserving and honoring the history of our state's law enforcement is crucial to ensuring the officers and stories commemorated within the walls of the Hall of Fame will be preserved and shared for many years to come. Thank you, Jim. Thank you again to everyone here today. Your attendance this afternoon helps ensure that these law enforcement professionals receive their rightful place of honor for years to come, and their service will not be forgotten. Thank you so much, and may God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. It puts me in a funny place. You know, I've worked with a lot of the people that we induct into the Hall of Fame. I was at SLED for 44 years. I tell the basic students when they come through, I was at SLED so long they put me in a museum. But it gives me a great perspective, and looking back, people call, hey, do you know so-and-so, or who did so-and-so work for? So I lived through most of it, so thank you, Director. I'd also like to recognize we have 2 inductees for meritorious service here that I've seen. We have former Academy Director Billy Gibson, who was inducted several years ago. Billy, if you'd stand up. And we have SLED's legend, Lieutenant Hulse Horton, who was inducted last year. Hulse. And did I miss anybody? I didn't see everybody come in. Well, good. Thank y'all for coming. All right. To begin with, for our inductions, our first inductee, on behalf of the South Carolina Law Enforcement Officers Association, I'd like to call on Columbia Police Department Deputy Chief Melron Kelly for our first presentation. Chief.
Good afternoon. It is my honor to join you today as we induct Chief Charles Clark into the South Carolina Criminal Justice Hall of Fame. Chief Clark's life was a testament to his dedication and service. From his beginnings in the big city of Winsboro, South Carolina, to his time in the military, through more than 40 years at the Columbia Police Department, rising through every rank to include Chief of Police. Along the way, he left a lasting legacy. He introduced us to technologies like our first APHIS machine, the redesign of our now headquarters, and a remarkable 97% clearance in homicide rates. But now time for some stories. As a very young patrol officer before going to the academy, we had to do things like sit in offices and do certain chores around headquarters. My job was to drive the police chief at the time, Charles Austin. On my very first day of work, I wrecked his car. And my task was to go see then Major Clark, who was the deputy chief of police. And he said, simple thing. He said, this is gonna sting, but it ain't gonna hurt. And he offered me some Cromer's peanuts. And I went about my day, started with some foot patrol. On my second brush with fender bender, I again had to go see then Chief Clark. And he said that one thing I can tell you, Melron, you're definitely not our best wellman. And you can't drive. I wouldn't allow you to go to Cromer's and get me a Coca-Cola. And with that shame, I went back to foot patrol for another 30 days. Blue unit, as we called it. But beyond his accomplishments, those who knew him best remember his steady hand. Chief Austin remarked that his vast knowledge and calming presence, Ralph Held described him as the coolest operator under stress. He's the kind of leadership that inspires others to rise to the occasion. As Robert Peel once said, the police are the public and the public are the police. Chief Clark lived by that principle, leading with humility, respect, and a deep sense of responsibility to those he served. Today we honor not only his achievements, but his lasting legacy at the Columbia Police Department and in the state of South Carolina. His commitment leaves behind the true example for officers to develop into professionals that we are. Thank you so much for honoring him as we continue to do at the Columbia Police Department. And accepting the honor today will be Chief Holbrook from the Columbia Police Department. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Those are the stories that we come for. Next presentation on behalf of the Fraternal Order Police, we have Awards Committee John Ayton. John.
I'm here to present Chief Rhodes with the Rock Hill Police Department. Chief Rhodes was a native son of York County. He was married to his wife Hazel. They raised 2 children in York County. Chief Rhodes began his lifelong service to the community when he joined the Rock Hill Police Department in 1936. For the next 30 years, he dedicated himself to public safety with honor, resilience, and distinction. Chief Rhodes began serving his country when he enlisted in the United States Marines. In 1942, when his country needed him, at the height of World War II, he answered the nation's call to duty and re-enlisted in the Navy. With full support of the city of Rock Hill, he served overseas, knowing his position was secure upon his return home. After the war, Chief Rhodes resumed his career with the Rock Hill Police Department. In 1947, during Chief Hanna's leave of absence, Rhodes was appointed acting head of the department, a testament to the trust and the confidence placed in him by the city. That same year, he was selected to attend the FBI National Academy in Washington. On February 19, 1954, Rhodes was officially named Chief of Police of the city of Rock Hill with an annual salary of $5,700. His tenure was marked not only by professional leadership, but also personal sacrifice and bravery. On October the 25th, 1957, Rhodes was standing at the sergeant's desk inside the police station. Rhodes saw Hazel Means when he entered the front of the station. Means was carrying a Smith & Wesson 38 Special caliber pistol. Chief Rhodes, who was known for his big hands, grabbed the gun and Hazel Means. Rhodes took Means to the floor. Means fired the gun and the bullet went through Chief Rhodes' hand and into his abdomen. Rhodes, being critically wounded, held Means down until help arrived. Detective Brown came to the chief's assistant, and Means asked Detective Brown if Rhodes was dead. Brown told Means no, but he's in serious condition, which Means replied, "Loan me a gun and I'll finish the job, and I'll take care of the rest of you too." Rhodes survived the attack and returned to work December of that same year. Hazel Means had a loaded gun and a pocket full of bullets with the intention of shooting all the officers that were in the station that day. Rhodes' actions undoubtedly saved lives that day and reflected a high standard of valor in law enforcement. Chief Rhodes returned to work just a few weeks later, embodying the spirit of resilience. Rhodes was also a compassionate leader and community advocate. In 1955, he spearheaded the efforts to fund and build a chapel at the Worthy Boys and Girls Camp, which is a camp we offer free in Rock Hill to the kids that live in York County. Personally, he raised over 2/3 of the $3,000 needed to build the chapel. He also began the department's first K-9 unit, and he also, back in the 50s, suggested the thought of having a camera in patrol cars to assist in DUI arrest. Under Rhodes' leadership, Rock Hill Police Department navigated through complex and turbulent times, including the civil rights era in the 1960s. Through it all, he remained a steady and fair-minded presence to justice and community trust. Chief Rhodes retired January 1st, 1967. He left behind a legacy of service, sacrifice, steadfast leadership. He exemplified the very best of South Carolina law enforcement and left his permanent mark on the Rock Hill community and beyond. Today, I'd like to present Chief Rhodes into the Hall of Fame.
We have anybody from the department? You call them up.
If Lieutenant Chavis would come up.
All right, our next presentation on behalf of the South Carolina Department of Public Safety, we have Highway Patrol Colonel Christopher Williamson. I won't adjust the mic.
Thank you, Jim. Jim said he won't adjust the mic. That's because it's already down low. Good afternoon, everyone. The South Carolina Department of Public Safety respectfully submitted Major Stephen Snake Wilson as his 2025 nominee for induction to the South Carolina Law Enforcement Officers Hall of Fame for meritorious service. Throughout a law enforcement career spanning nearly half a century, Major Wilson invested his time, effort, and money into learning and bettering himself to help other troopers and officers better than throughout his life and careers. He held himself to a high standard as a trooper and as an instructor, while at the same time holding his students to those same high standards as well. Born in Chester, South Carolina in 1950, Wilson was the oldest of 3 boys and 1 girl. His family moved to Anderson in 1966, and after graduating from T.L. Hanna High School, Major Wilson chose to attend Clemson University, living with his parents and commuting each day to avoid the added expenses of campus housing. He enrolled in the ROTC and decided to proactively enlist in the military as the conflict in Vietnam heated up. However, a physical revealed that he was colorblind and had a hearing defect, making him ineligible to serve. Sometime later, Major Wilson met a South Carolina Highway Patrol officer in Anderson, and his interaction motivated him to join the patrol, graduating in December of 1972 with Class 36. He was quoted in a 1973 newspaper article saying, "When I was at Clemson, everyone was always talking about something useful for society. That's when I chose the Highway Patrol." Major Wilson was first assigned to Richmond County and ascended the ranks as a road trooper before being promoted to sergeant in 1982, and then assigned to the Criminal Justice Academy, where he helped prepare recruits for their careers as law enforcement officers by teaching them about firearms and about driving. What made him such an effective educator was not flashy displays and tricks or his impressive wealth of knowledge or berating recruits with soul-crushing criticism. Instead, he shared his knowledge with them to ensure they were prepared to handle the ins and outs of a dangerous job. Hall of Fame Administrator Jim McCleary has this to say about Major Wilson. He had that country accent, so even though he operated a higher level, he did not present that way. He was always a helpful coach type who was there to build you up and not to tear you down. 20 years after joining the Highway Patrol, Major Wilson went back to school and worked in his spare time to earn a master's degree in criminal justice in 1993. Retired STP Lieutenant Don Tinsley, who worked with him at the training academy and was on the pistol team, said that Steve was constantly reading and studying trying to get as much knowledge and then share it with others. He would read, study, and perfect something, and then turn around and teach it to you, Miss Gail. In 1979, Major Wilson joined the Highway Patrol pistol team, which at the time was under the direction of the legendary Captain Cecil Dilworth, whom Major Wilson succeeded as pistol team commander. For him, these competitions were about picking up new techniques, ideas, and scenarios to take back to South Carolina. During his years as an instructor, Major Wilson helped modernize and streamline the patrol's firearms training program. At a time when computers were still very nuanced, he and Lieutenant Tinsley integrated the shooting range and targets with computer systems. They also developed a running man target on the far end of one of the ranges, which improved the previous method of testing troopers' marksmanship and speed, which is when I came through, I couldn't hit. Additionally, he helped start a yearly in-service training and maintenance program, which required troopers to bring their weapon in once a year and fire it and ensure that the specifications were up to standards. Major Wilson never shied away from an opportunity to set an example for younger generations. South Carolina Highway Patrol Captain McMurray met Wilson for the first time as an Eagle Scout when he held a demonstration for the Boy Scout troop. McMurray said Major Wilson took a playing card, turned it sideways, and cut it in half with a .22 caliber at 25 yards. Well, you wouldn't want to hit him and take off running, would you? Major Wilson was the first person in South Carolina to be distinguished in 6 different weapons under the NRA's Distinguished Marksmanship Program. He also placed in the Governor's 20 from 1980 to 2003, over 20 years. Major Wilson received his final promotion to major in 1999, overseeing administrative operations and the budget for the Highway Patrol. He also helped lay the groundwork for the Highway Patrol's motor unit, K-9 unit, and multidisciplinary accident investigation team, known as the MATE team today. Major Wilson retired in December of 2001, but returned to the patrol just 3 months later and put in 7 more years of service in the training unit at headquarters. When the grant funding for this position ran out, the Criminal Justice Academy hired him to teach firearms and advanced firearms. He retired from the academy in July of 2018, capping off more than 45 years of service to his state and to the citizens of this state here in South Carolina. In his later years, Major Wilson experienced mobility issues and was no longer able to shoot two-handed, but he never lost his love for shooting, his regards for others, or his blunt sense of humor. Not long before he passed, retired Highway Patrol Captain Russell Wilson, his brother, visited him wearing an Hawaiian shirt. Y'all seen that shirt before? He was wearing this Hawaiian shirt to take his wife out to lunch, and he asked him, how did it look? In his typical fashion, Major Wilson responded, it looked like crap. At the time, Captain Wilson said he was recovering from surgery, and Snake still asked how he was doing. The fact that Snake in his final days still asked Russell how he was doing meant a lot to his younger brother. Major Wilson had a simple but heartfelt desire to make South Carolina safer, but ensuring that its law enforcement officers received the very best training and education. He worked tirelessly to learn and better himself so that he could turn around and better others. In summing up his service and legacy, we should look to these words from NFL coach and World War II veteran Tom Landry. A coach is someone who tells you what you don't want to hear, who has you see what you don't want to see, so you can one day be who you always know that you can be. Major Wilson's passion for knowledge and his love of sharing that knowledge quietly left an impact on countless law enforcement officers over the years, and the crucial lessons he taught in firearms, handling, and marksmanship have certainly saved the lives of South Carolina law enforcement officers. For all that I've just read and his great attributes and accomplishments, his passion for educating and improving the lives of others, and for his commitment to a career of public service and to the state of South Carolina, it is definitely a pleasure on behalf of the South Carolina Highway Patrol and our agency director, Director Woods, South Carolina Department of Public Safety, to name Major Stephen Snake Wilson into the Meritorious Hall of Fame for meritorious service. I want to thank the Wilson family for being here today to be here to honor this prestigious moment, and I will ask his wife Gail and his son Stephen to step up and accept this award.
Thank you, Colonel. We've got some of the retired members and members of the Highway Patrol pistol team that shot with Major Wilson. If y'all would stand, please. Thank you. All right, our next presentation will be from SLED Chief Mark Keel on behalf of the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division.
Thank you, Jim. It is my honor today to recognize Walter Gassaway Powell, Sr., former SLED agent, SLED captain for meritorious service. And I'm going to ask, because I see a good many people out there from SLED, those that worked for Captain Powell as a dog boy, as we called him back then, or in any please stand up, if y'all would. Thank y'all for being here. Walter Gassaway Powell Sr. was born August 3rd, 1938 in Columbia, the son of Edwin T. Powell and Susan M. Gassaway. After graduating from Columbia High School in 1956, he decided his calling in life was law enforcement. He joined the Richland County Sheriff's Department as a deputy sheriff at age 18. Also in 1956, Powell began his military service in the South Carolina National Guard in the 751st Ordnance Battalion. In 1960, after 4 years at the Sheriff's Department, he began his distinguished SLED career with the Bloodhound Tracking Team. On August 17, 1963, Powell married the love of his life, Leila Annette Todd, an RN at the Dorn VA Medical Center. Their life together was one dedicated to family and civil service. In 1968, Powell was selected to go to the prestigious FBI National Academy and graduated in the 81st section under the FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover. In 1969, Powell started the first criminal intelligence section at SLED, utilizing grant funding. In 1971, he became the first certified bomb tech at SLED, and in 1974, Powell started SLED's first bomb squad, again securing grant funding for that unit. Powell and SLED were founding members of the Regional Organized Crime Information Center, ROCIC, serving thousands of law enforcement member agencies in Alabama, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, North Carolina, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, Virginia, West Virginia, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. Powell represented SLED at the organizational meeting in March of 1973 in New Orleans, where 24 law enforcement leaders from several southern states developed the framework for informational sharing organization that stands today. At that meeting, Powell was responsible for setting the criteria for an index-type system to gather and share intelligence information throughout the southern region. This system would expand to become a nationwide regional information sharing system, of which ROCIC is one of the 6 centers. Powell served on several committees during his 23 years of service to ROCIC, and he served as the first board member to represent South Carolina from 1990 until 1996. In 1988, under newly appointed Chief Robert Stewart, Powell was named captain over multiple units, including support services, criminal intelligence, bloodhound tracking team, aviation, fugitive task force, and missing and exploited children, SWAT, and the bomb squad. Powell retired from SLED in 1996 with 40 years of law enforcement service, 36 of those at SLED. In 2008, SLED dedicated a room at the Fusion Center in his name called the Powell Room. And that room, for Walter G., for you to know, that room has been moved to the new, what we call the old lab, but the new Fusion Center. That room will be dedicated, the Powell Room in the new Fusion Center. Powell was former deacon of Eastminster Presbyterian Church, a member of the Masonic Lodge 370, the South Carolina Law Enforcement Officers Association, Fraternal Order of Police, and he remained a commissioned retired agent until his passing in 2019. I want to say this personally about Walter Powell. My first day at SLED was August the 31st, 1979. And he had I had the privilege of him driving me and another agent at the time, L.G. Faircloth from Berkeley County. He drove us down to the governor's office, Governor Riley's office, because back then that's the way you came on at SLED. You went down and met the governor. And that was the first time I'd ever met Walter Powell, and he drove Chief Strom and myself and L.G. Down to the State House to meet Governor Riley. After that, he and I continued our conversation. I went into narcotics working for Lieutenant Steve Smith at the time. But Captain Powell, we call him Captain, he wasn't a captain back then, but Captain Powell, I'll call him, was one of those people that he didn't make us young agents feel like we were nobodies. He encouraged us. He helped me find a place to live when I was going to move from Barnwell County up here to Columbia and take this job at SLED. He was one that kind of guided me in where he thought was a good place for me to live at the time, and he really was a mentor to me. And then in 1989, I had the opportunity to was transferred from narcotics to the intelligence section. 1991, I was promoted to lieutenant and in the intelligence unit, and had the opportunity to work for Captain Powell for, I get till 1996 when he left. He gave me every opportunity to expand my horizons. I can tell you, I ended up running the dogs for a couple of years when we had agents that were out, either due to injury or we had a couple that got involved in a gunfight and were shot and was out. I had the opportunity to run the dogs. I ran the dogs, I think, with everyone that I see here today at one time or another. I had the opportunity to further my pilot license and learn to fly helicopters, and all the while was, like I say, a lieutenant in the intelligence unit and joined the SWAT team at that time. Again, he truly was a mentor for me, and I can say this, that he loved SLED, and he loved the SLED Bloodhound unit. He had the only tag that I know of that was SLED Dog. That was the tag he had on his vehicle, his car. He wasn't ashamed about letting people know who he was or what he did, but I remember that tag on his personal vehicle, SLED Dog. And again, it is just an honor for me to recognize him in this way, and I appreciate that opportunity, and I thank him for what he did to me, what he did for me in my career. In 1996, when he retired, I became the captain over that same unit that he had. And again, some of the best days of my life is working in that unit and working for Captain Powell. He was, last thing I'm going to say, Captain Powell loved technology, and he knew a little bit about everything. He's the only man I ever knew that knew how to crack a safe. I don't know where he had learned that, but he'd gone to some school somewhere. And he knew the default combination to safes. And I remember one day somebody had a safe there at headquarters that they had locked it and didn't know what the combination was. And they came Captain Powell, and he said, "Oh, well, I can get in that safe." And he went around there, and he sat there and did what he did, and he ended up getting in that safe again. He loved technology. I can only imagine today with the technology that we have in law enforcement, how excited he would be about it. And he thought when we got the first pearl recorders, if y'all know what I'm talking about, little miniature tape recorders, about how neat they were. And of course, he was going to have one. If it was out there, he was going to have one whether the state bought it or not, because he loved technology that much. But again, it's an honor for me to recognize him for meritorious service and be entered into the Hall of Fame. I'm going to ask his son, Walter Powell Jr., if you'd come forward, please.
Thank you, Chief. Congratulations to the Powell family. All right, our next presentation on behalf of the South Carolina Department of Corrections, I'd like to introduce former South Carolina Department of Corrections Director and now U.S. Attorney for the state of South Carolina, Brian Sterling. Also, we have Interim Director Joel Anderson.
Good afternoon. I want to tell you what an honor this is for Captain Johnson, for me to be able to announce him, but to talk about him just a little bit. We put this information together. He's been a mountain to climb for us. He's helped us tremendously. But I wanted to say that Robert Johnson was born in Denton, Georgia, as the second of 9 children. While he was very young, the family moved to Florida and spent his entire childhood in elementary and high school in Delray Beach. In 1973, Robert Johnson enlisted into the United States Air Force. Spent 23 years there. He came to us after only a month out of being out of the military. He came to the Department of Corrections. He started with us in 1995 after he retired. But when Robert Johnson began working with South Carolina Department of Corrections as a correctional officer at Lee Correctional Institution, he initiated the second distinguished career with his commitment initiative recognized. He was placed in various roles, responsibilities, everything from the RRT team, including the emergency response teams, the contraband inmates, and just showed that he was ready to do anything we wanted him to do. He became a certified trainer with the our rapid response team, and everybody that doesn't have any idea what that is, we call it our red team. And he held the first sergeant at Lee Correctional Institution in the red team. In addition, carrying out all of his usual demanding jobs done by security staff, he became well known for his success in locating contraband, which was already inside and preventing more from being brought to or received by inmates. In fact, he was so effective, and when he became a captain, the warden obtained a waiver for him to continue being over contraband. Normally the captains, when they become that part of the administration, they have to move up, but the warden wanted to keep him in contraband because he was so good at what he did. His contraband control, despite the agency's protocol, no one above the rank of lieutenant could serve in that role. Because of his success in contraband intervention, a contract was put out on Captain Johnson by the use of illegal cell phones. And it's very important to know that. The inmates that were incarcerated, he eliminated, and they decided he was an impediment to what they were doing with their illegal activity inside the institution. An ex-inmate was hired for $6,000 to quiet Captain Johnson, to remove him from where he was. This was all arranged through the use of contraband cell phones. On the morning of March 5th, ex-inmate broke into Captain Johnson's house, shot him 6 times. And while he was getting ready for work, I remember the story as clear as day, but they shot him 6 times, and because of what Captain Johnson did, his wife was spared. Anyway, Captain Johnson was left for dead. He came very close to dying even in the trauma center. We're happy that he didn't. We're glad that he's doing what he's doing now because he is a beacon for what we're trying to do today. He's undergone 36 surgeries, and I think he told me he's got 2 more to go, or he's got at least 2 more to go. The fact that he can't return to active employment, that hasn't stopped him. He's testified in front of Congress. He's testified in front of our House, our legislators, on the need to be able to control his contraband and his cell phones. He's done a tremendous job for us. I appreciate everything that you've done, Captain Johnson. And Mr. Sterling would like to say a few words.
Thank you, Cap. I don't know if Craig Janikowski or anybody's here from the FBI or SLED that worked on the case, but if y'all, Craig, stand up. I don't know if anybody else is here, but Craig was one of the lead agents, and there's others that are here too, SLED and FBI that worked on this case. So thank you very much for bringing the person that did this to justice and ordered this. Cap, we've talked a long time. We're friends. You're a hero of mine. One of the things that he did, and he and his wife had a plan. I feel like this award goes to Captain and Mrs. Johnson because she has suffered through everything also. As with all law enforcement, it kind of affects your family with what you do. He was such a hero. He was in the back of his home, and he called for them to come to where he was so she would be safe. And it was a plan that was so sophisticated, they used the .38 so there'd be no shell casings. He was doing such a good job that they wanted to silence him. A month ago or so, I got a text message from Brendan Carr, who used to be the general counsel at the FCC in Washington, D.C. They regulate cell phones and things of that nature. And he said, I'm going to be in Arkansas today, and we're going to announce that we're going to have a hearing in a month, which was yesterday, on a proposal that would allow states to jam contraband cell phones. And I texted him and I said, well, here's the Cap's number. I think he'd like to hear from you. So Brendan called him on the way back from the airport. It was a press conference with Governor of Arkansas and Senator Tom Cotton and the director out there. And yesterday, when he gave his remarks, he recounted that phone conversation on the vote with Captain Johnson and how much of a hero he was. I believe Captain Johnson was spared so this would pass. We could be there for his family, but this will pass the FCC hopefully after a 30-day comment period, and it will save others from going through the pain and suffering and criminal activity that happens from behind bars on contraband cell phones. Ironically, and this is a typical South Carolina story, I was at a tailgate and I was talking to a friend of mine's wife, and she was a trauma nurse and she worked at Richland at the time. They used to call it Richland. And I was telling her about Captain Johnson, and she said, I was there. So what do you mean? She said, I was saying, his wife came in and said, I want to pray over my husband. I want to touch his body before he goes. She came in, the surgeon, which is unheard of, she put her hands on him and started praying over him, and his blood pressure started coming back up, and I think I'm getting this right. He will definitely correct me if I'm wrong on this later, but the doctor said, you need to stay and keep on praying because you're bringing your husband back to life. I think he probably heard her voice, and she is in the prayers, and she is one of the reasons. But my friend's wife was in the trauma room because she was a trauma nurse when that happened. So yesterday on a 3-0 vote, the FCC voted to take comment on the ability for states, not the federal government, but for states to be able to jam contraband cell phones. Again, I think this is an award that goes to not only Captain Johnson, but I think it should go to his wife. So I'd like both of y'all to come up and be inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Thank you. Captain Johnson sent me a book he's recently written, On Point, The Making of a Prison Contraband Captain. He asked me to make you aware of. It's available on Amazon. Thank you, sir. Representing the South Carolina Police Chiefs Association, we have Chapin Police Chief Thomas Griffin.
Thank you. Thank you all. It's an honor to stand here today to nominate Chief Robert Smith for the South Carolina Law Enforcement Officers Hall of Fame. He not only shaped the history of law enforcement in Chapin, but he also shaped me who I am today personally. I grew up in Chapin, and like most kids, we rode around on our bikes back before it was the congested place it is today, where we didn't have to worry about traffic. But I also distinctly remember being a young man, possibly 14 years old, possibly driving a little too fast, possibly having my granddad in the passenger seat. And I come across Chief Smith, and he starts pointing that finger at me to slow down. And that's all the warning you needed back then. It really is. Chief Smith has always been a protector, a mentor, and a pillar of our community. He became the very first police officer of the Chapin Police Department in 1966. And for 33 years, he gave his heart and soul to serving and protecting this town. Over 3 decades as chief, he led with integrity, professionalism, and commitment to the people of Chapin that never wavered. He guided the department through growth and change, and he did it in a way that always earned the trust and respect of the community. His service didn't stop there. Chief's impact was so much bigger than a badge and a title. He is a graduate of Prosperity High School, a United States Air Force veteran where he served as a military police officer, a husband of 64 years to his beautiful wife, Hazel. He's a father, a grandfather, a man of faith, and a friend to so many. His legacy extends through his family. His son, his grandson, his son-in-law all served in law enforcement as well. And through every officer who has walked through the halls of the Chapin Police Department since that time. Since 2022, our department created the Chief Robert Smith Officer of the Year Award. It's presented annually. We have officers, we have a banquet each year. Chief Smith's there every year to present that award. I think it's one of the highlights of his year, and I know it's one of the highlights of mine. For me personally, I'm proud not to only honor Chief Smith as a legend to our profession, but also to call him a friend and a mentor. Chief, or as many of us call you, Mr. Robert, thank you for paving the way and for showing us what leadership rooted in integrity looks like, and for reminding us that the heart of this job is in the service to others. Thank you. Please come up, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. Congratulations. All right, our final presentation on behalf of the South Carolina Sheriff's Association. I'd like to call on Georgetown County Sheriff Carter Weaver.
Come on, sheriffs. If Sheriff Philip Thompson and Sheriff Lee Foster will join me up here. It takes more than one sheriff to talk about Lane Cribb. Welcome. I'm honored to be here surrounded by such deserving people today. And just thank you for having us. Thank you for inducting Sheriff Cribb into this this Hall of Fame, which he is so deserving. Welcome to his family, welcome to his children, and we always said he would never be forgotten. And he's still here with us today, no doubt. Thank you to Director McCleary, the Hall of Fame Committee. Thank you for allowing us to be here, and thank you for honoring Sheriff Cribb. It honors his legacy, his leadership, his dedication, and to public service. Sheriff Cribb, he served with the ABC Commission. He served with the Florence County Sheriff's Office, but he had 7 terms as Sheriff of Georgetown County. His career was marked with fairness, strength, and a deep service of humility. He led with principle and heart. He was in the people business, not the police business. And he served all citizens with respect. He never knew a stranger. He always treated people fairly. He even treated the inmates fairly. One of his lasting accomplishments is he created a reentry program. And several hundred inmates have gone through that program to date, and only 2 have returned to a life of crime. So it's a lasting effect that he has had on our community. And any success that I have had as sheriff since 2019 has been from the high tides that he created while he was there. And I will never, ever forget that. Because I can promise you, I was his chief deputy for 18 years. And there's probably about 20 times that he should have fired me. And he never would, because he was just that kind of guy. He'd be like, son, it's going to be all right. Something will happen tomorrow. Where are we going to lunch? And that would be about the end of it. If you met Sheriff Cribb on the street, if you met Sheriff Cribb at the academy, if you met Sheriff Cribb at his own office, you would never know that he was a sheriff. He was just a very unassuming person. He didn't ask for a lot of pomp and circumstance, but the minute you sat down and had a conversation with him, you knew he was a very engaged guy. You knew he was a very smart gentleman, and a gentleman is a key word. He treated you so well. We've had people come in that office, they've called dispatch, they've cussed the dispatchers out, they've shown up at the office, they've cussed the poor ladies up front out. They wanted to demand to meet with the sheriff. And of course, I'm going to be the first one at the door with him. We take him back there, and I'm like, Sheriff, you don't need to meet with this guy by yourself. He's cussed everybody out. It'll be all right. Well, next thing I know, 2 or 3 minutes later, they're listening to bluegrass music, because he has figured out that they got kinfolk somewhere down the line in Folly Grove or Pleasant Hill. And then the man would leave without even knowing why he was there to start with. And that is one of 100 times that he garnished or gained, produced those kind of results. Again, I was his chief deputy. I am not going to dare tell stories. But I did ask for a 10-term sheriff from Newberry, Lee Foster, and a 7-term sheriff from Horry County, Philip Thompson, he really looked up to these gentlemen. They looked up to each other, and they worked with each other. And they can really tell you the things that me not being a sheriff at the time can't really relay to you. So I wanted them to come today because I thought it would be important. Sheriff Thompson.
Thank you, Sheriff. Hello, everyone. What a pleasure it is to come and to be here at this ceremony, to see everyone that's come in, but to talk about Lane Cribb. What a guy. And Sheriff Weaver kind of stole some of my fire when he was doing the hand gesture. You know, Sheriff Cribb didn't talk much without his hands. I don't know how he held the telephone and talked at the same time. But what a guy he was. When I took office, we're in neighboring counties, Horry and Georgetown County, and so when I got elected and went to my first sheriff's meeting, was just a few weeks after taking office, Sheriff Cribb come up to me and said, "Now, son, you're not going to have to worry about a thing. I got you." And that he did. This man cared so much about law enforcement, his passion for law enforcement, his passion for serving the citizens of Georgetown County. Not only that, the citizens of the state of South Carolina. He was very active in the Sheriff's Association. He served a term and a half as president, served on the board, and it was nothing strange for Sheriff Cribb to call you at 11 o'clock at night because he had something on his mind that was going on regarding law enforcement. If for some reason you didn't answer that phone, he would give you 3 minutes and he would call you back. Because he was so passionate, he cared so much about law enforcement, the office of sheriff, and what it stood for. I called him the great communicator. Like Sheriff Carter mentioned, is he could take any situation and talk and handle it and talk through it, and folks would come in or the situation would be bad, and by the time it was over with, they were patting him on the back and they were saying, thank you for listening, thank you for helping. He just made you feel good, because that's what a law enforcement officer, that's what he felt like a law enforcement officer's job was, profession was, and he was very, very good at it. So I tell you, it's truly, if anyone deserves, as all these folks do, but Lane Cribb really deserves to have this award and have it presented to him and his family. Thank you all for being here today, and it's good to see y'all. Thank you very much.
I'm the closing person here, wrap-up hitter. So Lane was a great guy. I knew him from ABC. Now, for you young people, ABC is not kindergarten. That was Alcohol Beverage Control Commission. I knew him when he started working there and then progressed through the careers. But I really got to know Lane when he was sheriff. And he is a person that was doing de-escalation before de-escalation was cool. Sheriff Weaver mentioned that people would come in the office just raising Cain and upset, and he'd reach around and turn on the bluegrass music and listen to bluegrass music. And then by the time they got through listening to the bluegrass music, they forgot what they came here for. So he was a genius in that. But I can see him right now, up in heaven, and he's going to say, what's all this about? I don't understand. Why are they picking me? Because he deserved it.
Again, the Georgetown County Sheriff's Office is proud to have Sheriff A. Lane Cribb inducted into the Law Enforcement Officers Hall of Fame for meritorious service. And if his wife and children, Al, Christina, and Matthew, would come forward.
This kind of explains the family aspect of law enforcement in South Carolina. We've got all the sheriffs, we've got people supporting the highway patrol. I was fortunate to work with a bunch of these people. When I was at SLED, my hurricane duty station was Georgetown County, so Sheriff Cribb took care of me. I shot on the SLED pistol team with Steve Wilson and trained with him, and my family and I live in Chapin, so we're this whole ceremony is all about me. Again, in closing, thank you for being here. This is a great ceremony that we do. I want to thank the Hall of Fame staff, Mariah Reddick, Robert Wagner, Ralph Phillips, along with the DPS staff that helps us pull this thing together every year. Also, Academy Director Jackie Swindler, his folks help us all year long because we live right here on the corner. and they support us whenever we need anything. Thank you for being here again. I've been around for a while, so I get to do this firsthand. I grew up at SLED, and so a lot of these people are been very, very important to me in my personal life and in my career. So thank you for being here. It's just great to be able to recognize these people that made such a significant contribution to law enforcement, to their communities, to their families, and to the law enforcement families in South Carolina. So thank you for being here. There's a housekeeping. DPS Public Affairs team will provide photos of today's ceremony and video on the scdps.sc.gov. There'll be a video available, and then the still photographs will be there too. So thank you for being here, Reverend Skidmore. You'd send us home in the hands of the Lord.
Friends, hear these words of the Irish benediction. May the road rise to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face. The rains fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand. Amen. Go in peace.